In March 2022, a man named Derek Horton stood in a Michigan courtroom facing trial for murder. Midway through the proceedings, he stopped the trial to offer a plea deal. He would plead no contest to second-degree murder, but he required leverage to finalize the agreement. The terms were extremely specific. Horton would accept a minimum 15-year sentence in exchange for the state dropping their open murder charge. In return, he agreed to reveal a secret he had guarded closely for 21 months, the exact location where he buried his 27-year-old girlfriend, Amber Griffin. Amber's mother and children lived in uncertainty for nearly 2 years. By hiding her remains, Horton converted their grief into a bargaining chip, ensuring he remained the arbiter of their peace well after Amber was gone. When cases like this reach the courtroom, they are often framed as arguments that suddenly spiraled out of hand. But tracking the timeline reveals a different reality. Lethal domestic violence is the predictable conclusion to a long, calculated pattern of physical and psychological control. This timeline graph represents a standard 5-year relationship. To understand how coercive control escalates, we have to look at the violent incidents plotted across this curve. The abuse Amber endured from Derek Horton didn't begin at lethal levels. It started with small, tested boundaries, and over time, the frequency and severity of the violence begins to spike. We can see the curve spike to a terrifying extreme during one specific event. Fearing for her life, Amber threw herself out of a 2-story hotel window to escape Horton. She arrived at the hospital with a broken nose and 2 broken wrists. Instead of an intervention, the system failed. Paralyzed by fear, Amber signed herself out of the hospital the very next day. Without her ongoing testimony, the legal system completely dismissed the assault charges against Horton. When an abuser inflicts severe trauma and faces 0 legal consequences, they receive a clear message. Their actions are permissible. The boundaries of what they can get away with expand. An abuser isn't losing their temper in these moments. They are carefully calibrating exactly how much physical harm they can inflict on their partner without triggering an outside response. Physical attacks are loud and highly visible, but they serve as the enforcement mechanism for a quiet, psychological siege. Horton systematically isolated Amber from her support network. According to her mother, Carmen, Amber used to love spending time with friends and family, but under Horton's watch, she was heavily restricted and was explicitly forbidden to even try to be pretty or happy. To ensure she stayed, Horton deployed the most effective psychological weapon available to him. He repeatedly threatened that if Amber ever tried to leave, he would take her 2 young children away from her in court. Horton had absolutely no legal rights to those children. He was not their biological father. Yet he successfully weaponized Amber's fear of the legal system, convincing her that a judge would side with him and tear her family apart. This is the mechanic of psychological captivity. Before the violence turns lethal, the siege is designed to make escape feel more dangerous than staying. On the night of June 22, 2020, as strict pandemic lockdowns lifted across Michigan, Amber and Horton attended a small house party in Battle Creek. At 2 a.m., dispatchers received a frantic call from Amber's cell phone. The muffled audio captured a physical struggle, the sound of the phone dropping to the floor, and Amber's final screams before the line went dead. When investigators finally accessed the house, they found a massive crime scene. Amber's blood was smeared across all 3 floors and on the inside of a smashed basement window where she had tried to escape. Further testing revealed a significant amount of her blood pooled in the trunk of the couple's car. Horton's actions the following afternoon were entirely methodical. Security footage captured him walking into a local hardware store and paying $8 in cash for a shovel. The smashed window, the blood trails, the cash purchase of a shovel, these details map out a clear trajectory. This was a deliberate execution, the predictable endpoint when an abuser realizes their total control over a victim is finally slipping away. Because of his plea deal, Horton eventually led detectives to a vacant property on a rural road. 3 feet underground, in the middle of an isolated wooded area, they recovered Amber's skeletal remains. At sentencing, the judge did not hold back. He directly labeled Horton a textbook example of domestic violence, noting how he hid his partner's body in the dirt and then leveraged that horrific secret purely to benefit himself. While Horton will eventually have the possibility of freedom, he left behind total generational devastation. Amber's mother and her 2 children will spend the rest of their lives serving what Carmen calls an eternal sentence of trauma and loss. The patterns in Amber's life, the isolation, the weaponized legal threats, and the testing of physical boundaries, reveal the trajectory of the relationship. These behaviors are not private conflicts. These signs are the active mechanics of a siege. By recognizing and naming these tactics for what they are early on, we create the only real chance for society to intervene before the control turns fatal. Battle Creek, Michigan is a city defined by its industry. Known widely as Cereal City, it is the headquarters of Kellogg's and Post, a quiet community filled with historical charm, scenic parks, and a population of just over 50,000 people. This is where 27-year-old Amber Griffin lived and worked, June 22, 2020. That night, Amber and her boyfriend of 5 years, Derek Horton, attended a small house party. Derek later told police that once they returned home, an argument broke out. He claimed Amber stormed out of their camper to cool off, eventually walking away into the night. But the items left behind suggested she never intended to go far. Amber's phone, her wallet, and her life-saving insulin were all still inside the home. For an insulin-dependent mother who never lost contact with her family, this sudden disappearance immediately raised alarms with investigators. While search teams looked through the rural areas of Battle Creek, detectives discovered a piece of digital evidence that redirected the entire investigation. A 911 call had been placed from Amber's phone at exactly 2 a.m. on the night she vanished. Amber's mother listened to the recording to identify the voices. She heard Amber and Derek in the middle of a muffled argument. The audio then captured the sound of the phone being dropped or put down, followed shortly by Amber screaming. At the time, police were unable to pinpoint the exact GPS coordinates of the call. Because they couldn't find the source of the phone's signal, no officers were dispatched to the location while the struggle was occurring. Derek had insisted that Amber walked away safely after their argument. This 2 a.m. recording, capturing a violent struggle occurring at the exact time Derek claimed they were merely arguing at home, placed his version of events under immediate scrutiny. To understand the violence heard on that call, investigators looked into the 5-year history of the couple's relationship. They found a long-standing pattern of domestic incidents reported at the home. In one instance, Amber jumped from a 2-story hotel window to escape Derek. She was treated at a hospital for 2 broken wrists and a broken nose, but she signed herself out the following day, and no charges were filed. Friends and family say Amber lived in fear, reporting that Derek often pulled guns on her. She told the father of her children that she stayed because she was terrified Derek would use the court system to take her children away from her. The 911 call was the final incident in a years-long pattern of documented domestic abuse. For investigators, the struggle captured on the audio was the culmination of a trajectory they had seen building for years. Knowing a violent struggle had occurred at 2 a.m., police returned to the house on Oneida Street where the party had been held. They began a forensic search of the property, looking for physical evidence that matched the sounds on the tape. Investigators found Amber's blood on all 3 levels of the home and inside a smashed basement window, suggesting an escape attempt. The search then expanded to a wooded area half a mile away, where detectives spotted drag marks leading to a crumpled hardware store receipt. The receipt was dated June 23rd at 2:30 p.m., the day after Amber vanished. It showed an $8 cash purchase for a shovel. Store footage confirmed that the man buying the shovel was Derek Horton. This sequence of physical evidence, the blood in the basement and the purchase of the shovel, directly corroborated the violence heard on the 911 call. Even without a body, the prosecution now had enough evidence to charge Derek with murder. Prosecutors moved forward with an open murder charge. This legal designation is used when the evidence of a killing is strong, but the lack of a body makes it difficult to specify the exact degree of the crime. It allows a jury to decide between first-degree murder, second-degree murder, or manslaughter based on the facts presented at trial. At trial, Derek's attorney focused on the missing body. He argued that since there was no autopsy, there was no way to prove how Amber died. He suggested she may have simply fallen and hit her head, bleeding to death by accident rather than through a deliberate act. The defense's theory of an accidental death relied entirely on the absence of a medical report. The only evidence countering this narrative was the 2 a.m. recording, which documented a struggle far more violent than a simple fall. On the second day of the trial, the defense reached a plea deal. Derek agreed to plead no contest to second-degree murder, but the deal was strictly conditional. He had to reveal the exact location where he had hidden Amber's remains. Derek led investigators to a wooded area on Wabaskin Road. There, buried 3 feet underground, police found Amber's remains. After nearly 2 years of searching, her family finally had the closure needed to provide her with a proper burial. The judge sentenced Derek to 15 to 30 years, noting that Derek had used the secret of Amber's location to negotiate a benefit for himself. He described Derek's actions as the textbook definition of domestic violence. Derek attempted to use the silence surrounding Amber's death to negotiate a lighter sentence, but that single 911 call, dialed in the darkness of the basement, provided the one piece of evidence he couldn't take back. It ensured that even without a body to start the case, the truth of that night was already on the record. When someone vanishes without a trace, investigators have to look past what people say and focus entirely on the digital and physical evidence left in the victim's wake. In the summer of 2020, Battle Creek, Michigan was home to 27-year-old Amber Griffin. She was a mother of two and a dedicated employee at a local manufacturing plant, known for never missing a shift. In late June, as the state's pandemic lockdowns lifted, Amber and her boyfriend, Derek Horton, decided to attend a small house party at a friend's place. 2 days later, Derek called the police to report Amber missing. He claimed they'd had a heated argument after the party, and that Amber had simply walked out into the night to cool off, leaving her phone and wallet behind. But his story hit a wall when police searched their camper. Amber was insulin dependent, and her life-saving medication was still sitting right where she'd left it. Realizing she wouldn't have survived long without her insulin, detectives discarded Derek's timeline and began a forensic reconstruction of Amber's final 24 hours. For an insulin-dependent patient, leaving that medication behind is a medical emergency that makes Derek's story of a casual walk into the night impossible. The timeline begins at 10 p.m. on June 22nd. Amber sent a text to her mother that read, "I promise life will be better for all of us soon." Her family knew Amber lived in constant fear. For 5 years, she had survived escalating domestic violence at Derek's hands, abuse that had previously resulted in broken wrists and a fractured nose. 4 hours later, at 2 a.m. on June 23rd, the next piece of evidence surfaced, a 911 call placed from Amber's phone. On the recording, Amber and Derek's voices are heard during a muffled argument. The phone appears to drop, and shortly after, Amber is heard screaming. GPS data from that 911 call placed the phone directly at the Oneida Street house party, nowhere near the wooded path Derek claimed Amber had taken to cool off. That single cellular ping dismantled Derek's story, providing the police with the exact location of the crime scene. By dawn on June 23rd, the house on Oneida Street was no longer a party venue. It was an active investigation site. Police found Amber's blood on all 3 floors of the home. In the basement, they discovered her hair caught in the jagged glass of a smashed window, indicating she had tried to escape. The trail continued to the couple's car, where forensic teams found more of Amber's blood on the passenger door and inside the trunk. At 2:30 p.m. that afternoon, searchers found drag marks and a pair of bloody pants near another property. Lying nearby was a crumpled slip of paper. It was a receipt from Mix Hardware, showing an $8 cash purchase made at 2:30 p.m. on June 23rd. When investigators checked the store's security footage, they found Derek Horton at the counter, paying cash for a shovel. By late afternoon on June 23rd, Derek's movements were fully documented through a recorded struggle, a trail of blood, and a time-stamped receipt for a burial tool. By mid-July, prosecutors used this 24-hour timeline to charge Derek with open murder, despite the fact that Amber's body had not yet been found. An open murder charge is a strategic move when a victim is missing. It allows a jury to weigh the evidence and decide whether the crime constitutes first-degree murder, second-degree murder, or manslaughter. At the 2022 trial, Derek's defense argued that without an autopsy or a body, the prosecution's entire case was based on speculation. But on the second day of testimony, faced with the mountain of physical and digital records, Derek Horton accepted a plea deal for second-degree murder. The deal carried one strict condition. Derek had to lead the police to where he had hidden Amber. He took investigators to a wooded area behind a vacant house. Buried 3 feet deep, they finally found Amber's remains, confirming the grim purpose behind his $8 hardware store purchase. While Derek Horton chose silence, the evidence Amber left behind in those final 24 hours gave her the last word in the courtroom.